Most people will never be financially free. Not because they're lazy, not because they're unmotivated, but because the system has been deliberately designed to keep them stuck. It keeps you busy, confused, and just comfortable enough not to revolt. By the time most people realize that the game is rigged, it's too late to win, because they were never taught the rules in the first place. That's the part no one tells you. They tell you to budget, to work hard, to buy a house, to invest in the market. They say financial freedom is just a matter of discipline. But let's be honest, discipline alone won't get you there. If it could, every nurse, teacher, and factory worker who scrimped and saved their entire life would retire wealthy. But they don't. And the reason why has nothing to do with effort and everything to do with design. Financial freedom is not just about money. It's about control, time, choices, and security. The ability to say no to a boss, to a bill, to a crisis. That kind of freedom isn't handed out. It's constructed. And to construct it, you have to understand what's really holding people back. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what's really holding you back and what to do about it. Let's step back in time. For most of human civilization, wealth was about land. Land meant food. Food meant power. In medieval Europe, 90% of the population worked the land for someone else. They were called serfs, but they were really just laborers trapped by debt, rent, and the fear of starvation. Sound familiar? Fast forward to the Industrial Revolution. Suddenly, people weren't tied to soil, they were tied to wages. The factory replaced the field, but the dynamic stayed the same. Work long hours, earn just enough to survive, stay dependent. In the 20th century, something new emerged, the idea of the middle class. A class with wages high enough to buy homes, raise families, maybe even retire. But even then, real freedom was rare because the whole system, from schooling to employment to consumer culture, was built to keep people earning and spending. Enter the 21st century. Productivity has skyrocketed. Technology has exploded. But real wages for most people have stagnated. The middle class is shrinking. Meanwhile, the cost of living, housing, healthcare, and education has soared. Debt has become the default. Student debt, credit card debt, auto loans, mortgage debt, medical bills. The average American household now carries over $100,000 in total debt. And that's just the average. So ask yourself, who benefits when most people are always paying something back? Now add inflation, the silent thief. A dollar today buys half of what it did 20 years ago. And the so-called solutions to this problem? Print more money, lower interest rates, stimulate the economy. But every time that happens, asset prices inflate. Stocks, real estate, commodities. The rich, who already own the assets, get richer. The poor, who own none, fall further behind. This isn't a glitch, it's the engine. A financial system powered by debt, lubricated by inflation, and sustained by confusion. And here's the kicker. It trains you to blame yourself. Didn't save enough? Your fault. Can't buy a house? You're not hustling hard enough. Living paycheck to paycheck? Budget better. The system never takes the blame. It just sells you another app, another course, another product, all while keeping you locked in the same cage. This is where the truth starts to hurt, but also where it starts to matter. Most people will never be financially free because financial freedom requires more than income. It requires leverage. And most people never get it. They work for money. They exchange time for wages. But real wealth comes from the inverse. When money works for you. When assets generate income. When your time becomes optional. That transition from labor to leverage is where freedom lives. And it's exactly what most people are never taught to pursue. Most people are trapped in a cycle that feels like progress, but isn't. Get a job, take out loans, buy things on credit, upgrade your lifestyle, chase promotions, pay taxes, retire, maybe. But the problem isn't just the debt, it's the dependencies that come with it. When you rely on a paycheck to survive, you can't take risks. When your entire life is financed, you can't say no. And when your identity is tied to your consumption, you'll spend your entire life working to maintain an image you were manipulated into believing you needed. Now, let's talk about the upper class, the ones who are actually financially free. They play by a different rulebook. They don't trade time for money. They own, they delegate, they compound. They understand taxes, loopholes, trusts, holding companies. They think in decades, not pay periods. And most importantly, they keep the system opaque enough that you never learn to think like they do. They don't teach you about financial leverage in school. They don't explain how inflation transfers wealth upward. They don't tell you that passive income isn't just a dream. It's the foundation of how the wealthy stay wealthy. Instead, you're fed a steady diet of hustle culture, lifestyle branding, and the illusion of meritocracy. Work harder, grind longer, keep up. It's a treadmill dressed up as a journey. And when you burn out, they'll sell you therapy, coffee, or a weekend retreat, but never the truth. The truth is this: financial freedom is a rebellion, a rejection of dependency, a refusal to accept that you must trade your life energy for someone else's dream. But you can't rebel against something you don't understand. That's why financial education isn't optional. It's the foundation of sovereignty. It starts by asking uncomfortable questions. Where's your money actually going each month? What percentage of your income is tied to your labor? And how can you change that? What skills do you have that can compound? What assets can you build or acquire that generate cash flow? And just as important, what can you remove? What expenses? What assumptions? What addictions to convenience or approval are keeping you trapped? Because real wealth isn't just about having more, it's about needing less. Not in a minimalist aesthetic way, but in a strategic way where every dollar saved is a seed planted, not a joy denied. This is where mindset matters. The average person reacts to money. The financially free person designs around it. They build buffers. They anticipate volatility. They understand the difference between price and value, between urgency and importance. They don't chase the market. They position themselves to survive it. And this isn't just theory. History backs it up. The families who held wealth for generations didn't do it by guessing stock tips. They did it by owning land, businesses, intellectual property, assets that produce income no matter what happens to the economy. They passed down knowledge, legal structures, strategic positioning. It wasn't just money, it was mindset codified into systems. Meanwhile, everyone else was trained to be consumers. Earn, spend, repeat. Be grateful you have a job. Be ashamed if you don't. Take loans for education. Take loans for transportation. Take loans for housing. But don't ask who profits. Don't ask how money is created. Don't ask why. The harder you work, the less it seems to matter. But now you're asking, and that's the first crack in the illusion. So, what's the practical path forward? It's not glamorous. It's not viral. It won't make you rich overnight, but it's real. First, reduce fragility. Cut the liabilities that keep you reactive. That could mean downsizing, selling a car, moving somewhere cheaper. But every dollar of flexibility you create is a dollar of power regained. Second, build assets. Not just investments, assets. Skills that earn in the open market. Businesses that grow beyond your time. Investments that produce income while you sleep. Even a well-placed network is an asset. Think long-term. Compound relentlessly. Third, protect your mind. Don't drown in news, ads, hype, or fear. Study history. Understand systems. Learn how incentives drive behavior. The more calm and curious you are, the harder it is for the system to manipulate you. Fourth, share the knowledge. Real power isn't hoarded, it's multiplied. When more people understand how the game is played, the game starts to change. Because the truth is, most people will never be financially free. Not because they couldn't be, but because they were never shown how. They were handed a script, told it was life, and punished whenever they strayed from it. But you don't have to follow that script. You can write a new one. It starts with clarity, then control, then freedom. Not fantasy freedom. Real freedom. The kind where you choose how you spend your days, where emergencies don't destroy you, where money becomes a tool, not a tyrant. And it's not easy, but it is possible. And it starts now. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers. I'll show you where to go from here.